it's all in like what your expectations are. I mean, I had somebody tell me, um, DM me the other day about this topic, and she said, "Well, we have 10 kids and we live off of $36,000 a year. If we can do it, anybody can do it." And I was like, "Wow, like that's incredible." And that takes sacrifice. It's a great deal of sacrifice. And I could say that for our family. I feel like we've been very blessed, you know, in that way. But if like if we didn't have so many kids, we would definitely be doing like more vacations. We would definitely there, and I feel like you could say the same thing. You know,
Yeah.
we have made sacrifices, yet we are still like really, really satisfied with our life,
Yeah.
even with making sacrifices.
Hello, hello, and welcome to the Politely Rude podcast with Abby Johnson. I am Abby Johnson, and I just really appreciate you coming back week after week and listening to what we have to say. As always, if you love what you hear, please give me a 5-star rating and feel free to leave us a glowing comment. If you don't love what you hear, well, just, forget I said anything. Now, let's jump right into our show. I am so glad that you have joined us for another week and for another great guest. This is going to be a fun episode with my pal, Kelli Ingram. Kelli has been married to her husband, Trey, for 20 years, coming up soon in just a few months. It's May. They have 8 kiddos and they are expecting their 9th in June. They live on a bunch of acreage in South Carolina. They've got all the animals, pigs, chickens, donkeys, cows, horses, sheep, and some of their kids are homeschooled. Some go to school, and the little ones just stay home playing with each other and their mama. Welcome, Kelli, to the show. I'm so glad to have you on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored and humbled to be here. I have looked up to you for so many years, so
Oh,
I'm
you're
just so
sweet.
happy to be here.
You're sweet. Well, you've got a gazillion followers and people love you and all of your content. But I think a lot of people, they love to watch you and your husband and the dynamic you guys have in your home. Um, talk about your family a little bit. I mean, you've got, all different, you've got, do it yourself kids, you have adopted kids, you've just got a wide dynamic going on in your family. So tell us about that. Tell us about, homeschooling and all the different things you have going on.
So our oldest is 15. She'll be 16 this year, actually. So there will be an almost 16-year age gap between our first child and our 9th child. Yeah, so I could say so much about large age gaps. Like I think that they are the biggest gift that it's one of those things that I feel like I have this secret that I want to share with everybody, but nobody believes me about
Yeah.
it, you know? And I think that you could totally agree with me on
Yeah.
that and understand the beauty of that. So we have 15 down to baby in utero. We've got a couple of girls of our girls who were adopted. They were adopted as infants, newborns. We got them very early on from foster care, actually. Did not expect for adoption to happen, but it did, and we were so thankful. We have 7 girls and only 1 boy, unless this new baby is a boy. I don't know how that happened, but it's a lot of girls, a lot of girls.
That's so fun. And I love to see your husband like doing their hair on your socials. It's so cute. Everybody loves to see it. Everybody loves to watch it. It's so adorable. Um, okay. One thing, we're like so similar, like in our views and everything. And so there's things I want us to talk about because I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about this kind of stuff. And I've got a lot of parents and moms and people that listen to the show. And so this is something I want us to talk about. There's this, kind of like trend. dinks, right? Dual income, no kids. And I think one of the reasons that this kind of caught on is because people say to me when I tell them, I have 8 kids, they're like, "Oh, some people say to me, "Oh my gosh, it's so expensive." And I'm like, "It's really not." I mean, I don't know where this kind of like myth came from that having a child costs like millions and millions and millions of dollars a piece, but it really doesn't. I mean, it doesn't in our family anyway. I mean, we do hand-me-downs. Our kids don't get a lot of new stuff. We shop at thrift stores. We get used stuff. It's really not the expense that people think it is. I mean, I guess it could be if like all of my kids when they turned 16, they got a brand new car, or if all my kids were, shopping at Lululemon and they all had Gucci bags or something. I mean, I guess it could be expensive, but that's just not reality for us. And so, I mean, can you talk about this a little bit? Because I feel like you have the same perspective. And I feel like that idea that kids are such an expense and people are not willing to and even if it was super expensive, people are not willing to sacrifice to expand their family. It's such a cultural, I don't know, it's like a degradation of our culture that we're not willing to have children because we're not willing to sacrifice income. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Right. I think that we have done that to ourselves. Our culture has done that we've done it to ourselves. We have created this life that we think that we have to give our kids. All of us want our children to have a magical childhood. All of us want to bless our children with things and experiences. We all want that. That's universal, I think. But I think you're right. Like, you don't have to do the things that you see the world doing. You're right. I mean, I have 7 girls. We have a lot of clothes, okay?
Mhm.
But so many of those clothes I've had for 15 years. It's
Yeah.
crazy how, I've bought nice stuff and it's lasted. Um, and I think you're right. I think that we just have this expectation that, well, I'm gonna have to send my child to this college, and that's gonna cost 100 grand per kid. Well, I mean, okay, well, what if you changed your expectations of what it looked like when they leave your house? Like, well, what if they didn't go to college?
Right.
Like, what if you didn't spend all that money on private school? And I'm not knocking private school at all. I think there are some really great ones. We've considered it as well, but what if you homeschooled and you saved all that money that you think that you should spend on private school? You know, it it's all in like what your expectations are. I mean, I had somebody tell me, um, DM me the other day about this topic, and she said, well, we have 10 kids and we live off of $36,000 a year. If we can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that's incredible. And that takes sacrifice. It's a great deal of sacrifice. And I could say that for our family. I feel like we've been very blessed, in that way. But if we didn't have so many kids, we would definitely be doing like more vacations. We would definitely there and I feel like you could say the same thing.
Yeah.
We have made sacrifices, yet we are still like really, really satisfied with our life,
Yeah.
even with making sacrifices.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because like my kids are super excited to go like to a campsite overnight, right? Like that's my kids love to go to a campsite, to go fishing for like 2 nights and camp and bring their bikes. And that's like a super fun vacation to them, right?
Yes.
Like my kids do not need to go to Disneyland. I mean, I'm sure they would love it, but like they're just as happy roasting marshmallows and doing s'mores and being outside and going on a hike, like whatever. I think that it's so much about our expectations for our kids. Like I remember when I had Grace, I was like, okay, I've got to be like the best mom. And every birthday, I have to have the best cake. I'm going to go and get the professional cake made. I have to be that mom. And then I finally realized after having several, like, they don't care. They would actually
I don't.
rather make their own cake or from just they would rather help me make a cake for them, or they'd rather their siblings make a cake for them and decorate it themselves and it look absolutely ridiculous than have like a professionally made cake and it costs, $4 rather than like the 75 I was spending. I think it is so much about perspective and it's so much about quality time with your kids rather than throwing money at them for things, or
Right.
activities. They just want to be with you. I mean, that's really
Right.
the bottom line.
Yeah. I know we've tried, with birthdays, the same kind of thing. Like we really try to do like an experience with our child, but we actually bring the whole family with us. So it's our whole
Yeah.
family celebrating, doing this experience together, and the whole family gets to enjoy it. And maybe a few presents, but the experience is always the great gift.
Yeah. Yeah. When my kids are like, I didn't get a lot of presents. I'm like, I made you 7 presents. Go play with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a vacate. We had like the kids were off of school one day, and my son Luke came in and he's like, I'm bored. I'm like, no, I made you 7 best friends. You go in there and you play with your friends. You're never bored around here. Okay.
No, no.
So tell me like how tell me about your journey with your openness to life. I mean, is this something you guys as a couple, when you got married, you just decided, yeah, we're all in for as many kids as God wants us to have? Or was this something that you transitioned to? Was this something, you as a couple always wanted? Like how did that happen?
So no, we were not. I started off like many of us, millennial, or I was an 80s baby, so I guess I'm between the Gen X
Yeah.
and millennial. But yeah, I was started my marriage on birth control,
Sure.
like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And we quickly discovered that was not that wasn't working. And got off of that. And we really were kind of about a year into marriage, we're really convicted about having children. And why were we so like anti having kids as soon as we got married? I don't know. Where did that idea come from? I think it comes from our culture, our society, and what they tell us, like you need time for you, and
Mhm.
like before you ever have children. And I see the great value in that. And actually that is what ended up happening for us, because we went through infertility for 2.5 years once we decided to have children. um, and I can look back now and see the gift of that time. God
Mhm.
did not open my womb for that time. Um, so I would say that, yeah, we were definitely not in that thinking back then. And our journey through infertility really changed us. It really made us like cry out to God, like, please, God, like we never thought that we thought we would just get pregnant. Like that's just what happens. And we realized that wasn't ever a given. It's not a guarantee. God is in control of all of that. And that's when our perspective shifted a lot. Um, and, you know, ever since and it's just gotten stronger as time has gone on, and more we've become more and more open to having children, having more, you know?
Yeah.
We actually had two miscarriages before this pregnancy, and that also will do a number on you, you know, where you realize, gosh, like, yeah, I know I'm not in control, but like I really, really am not in control of what happens in there, in the womb. So, um, yeah, I would say that it's been a definitely a journey over this time, and realizing that children are the blessing that God says they are in the Bible. You know, it talks about it so many times. Um, so that's how we've lived our life. And honestly, like I know you're Catholic and you're around this thinking. You're around people who think like that. I am not. I am very, um, I don't know very many Protestants who think the way I think or the way we think.
Well,
It's kind of a lonely place to be, honestly.
I mean, I think there's just less and less in our society. I mean, we look around and I mean, there's just a celebration of dehumanization in our culture, you know? Um, like I think I've seen you post about like people literally celebrating their abortion, you know? Um,
Right.
like having these abortion parties and um but and not even that. Like there's and I think a lot of it is kind of this and this I mean this is controversial even among Christians, but like even just the birth control mentality. It makes me sad when I see people having vasectomy parties or something like that. I'm like I I don't know, like why are you celebrating that? I don't know. It's just strange for me that you're celebrating like cutting off your fertility. It's like you're celebrating breaking something in your body that God created to be healthy. Like fertility is a sign of health,
Yeah.
and you're celebrating the damage of something that God made as a sign of health. And that's weird to me. It's like
It's just very weird to me too.
you're it's like I had a heart attack. Let's have a celebration. Like nobody would
Let's
do
make a
that.
cake.
Let's make a cake and celebrate it. I'm going to put a busted aorta on the cake. That would be weird.
Yeah.
But we live in a society that celebrates dehumanization. We live in a society that celebrates depopulation. And that's just that is not a healthy society. A healthy society is one that populates itself, that values the souls of its people, that values children. And we're not living in that right now. People are valuing themselves primarily, I think, right now. And I think it's gross. I mean, when I see all that kind of stuff, I think it's gross. And when you see ads, there's an ad in Austin, actually, where I live. And it's this precious baby. It's this cute little baby. And it's a picture of a baby with a bowl of spaghetti, like dumped on its head. It's so cute. And it says something like, not ready for this, use a condom. And
It's the worst. It's the
I was
worst to
like,
see.
what?
Yeah. The sweetest moments, some of the sweetest moments, even when your kid is dumping spaghetti on their head, uh, I will never understand why that is so unwanted.
Mhm.
Um, and I agree with you. Some of the worst content that I'm on Instagram a lot just because that is my job. Some of the worst content that I have seen is people throwing these parties for the vasectomy, and I, I don't understand it. I don't understand Christians who get behind it, who are celebrating this. Um, I'll also say that it has been really discouraging to me that where are the pastors talking
Yeah.
about this? I feel like I've never sat in a sermon where a pastor has challenged his congregation on this matter. Is this something that you've experienced, or like I just if pastors aren't talking about this, who's going to talk about it?
Rarely. I've rarely heard it. A few times I've heard some, very faithful priests say something about, being open to life, or they've talked about, the contraceptive mentality in our culture, but it's very rare. And I mean, for somebody who goes to who goes to church every week,
Yeah.
it's so rare. It's so rare. This is the thing, Kelly. It's so rare for us to hear about protecting life in the womb, or it's so rare for us to hear about a pastor standing up for life, that when they do it, it makes a headline on social media, right?
Right. Right.
It makes a
Yeah,
headline. It's a headline when they do it.
yeah,
That's how
yeah,
rare it is.
you rarely hear them talk about or really, really putting their foot down or sticking their neck out and talking about the pro-life movement, because even in the church is controversial, which is bonkers to me. And then to take it a step further, you're never going to hear them talk about, and not even a pastor, you just talk about church leadership. They're really, I've never sat in Sunday school or church or a small group where somebody in leadership has said, like, what, like, be open to more children. Like,
Mhm.
let me challenge you. I mean, I don't think it's that crazy, but
Well, and sometimes like the voices we're hearing are like right now, Elon Musk is telling everybody to have more kids, but he's having more kids with like a million women. And I'm like, that's not the message, dude. Like
right, right,
that's not the message. It's not just about having kids. It's about having kids within the context of marriage. It's about having a faithful marriage. It's about hanging on to traditional values. It's not just about using women as incubators, which, I mean, talk about like, you know, perversion, like renting out women's wombs, which is what we're seeing now through like surrogacy and, gay couples renting out women's. And that is such a crazy thing to me, because how long has the pro-abortion movement said to us, you just want to use women as incubators, and then they're literally doing it.
right. They are.
That's literally what they're doing to these surrogates. And then I just saw a one, I can't remember who it was a model that used a surrogate because she didn't want to ruin her body because she's a model. And I'm like, what?
Yeah,
That's our bodies are amazing. Women's bodies are made to be, they're built to be so amazing, to give birth and to do these hard things and to do these amazing things. But we don't even want to give that up anymore. We don't even want to have a stretch mark on our body anymore. So we're
right.
renting out other women's wombs for that as well. I mean, it's insane. That is such, it's such a selfish sort of culture that we're living in today. And it's hard to wrap your mind around it. But you're right. I mean, it's hard to even find a pastor who will talk about murdering children from the pulpit, much less just this kind of dehumanization sort of culture that we're living in today. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard a pastor take on surrogacy or anything like that from the poll. I don't
Yeah.
think I've ever heard that ever.
No. And you won't. I don't know when that day will come or if it will ever come.
Yeah, I don't know. So you guys are a very pro-life family. Tell us, what are some of the ways that you guys, I mean, aside from, of course, like, having a large family and doing life that way, like, what are some of the ways that you guys kind of live out being a pro-life family?
Well, I mean, of course, we're open to life. If, God gives it to us, we're just thrilled to get it. I will also say that as an adoptive mother, speaking to another one, I think that foster care and adoption, when you look at the system, um, the world would say these children who are in foster care, they should be the ones who were aborted, because they're going to be reliant on the government, and they're not going to have good lives, and they're going to be with a single mother, and they're going to be poor. And those are all the excuses that the left will throw at, well, it would just be better if you would just have an abortion, and everybody would be better off. Okay, so a lot of these children who come into foster care, those are the children, you know, um, and they made it here by the grace of God. They've made it. Their mothers chose life, and as we all know, just because you chose life doesn't mean that things are going to be rainbows and unicorns once they're born. And children do end up in foster care, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
We decided that we wanted to step in and just be that, to bridge that gap, of taking on, for us, that was taking on two children who needed a mom and a dad. And that has been a blessing for us, a blessing for them, a blessing for, my other children, of course, have watched us go through that process. And yeah, I think that anybody who is pro-life should be involved in some capacity with orphans and orphan care at some point.
Yeah. How are you kind of navigating that? I mean, I'm also an adoptive mom. People ask me all the time, like, how are you kind of navigating adoption, like in your family with your kids? Jude has always known that he's adopted. Um, my other kids, of course. I mean, we adopted him also as an infant. Um, how is that in your family? Like, I don't know, like, how do your adopted children, like, do you think they feel differently in your family? Do you think your other kids kind of see them differently? Or, I guess in foster care, they don't have a relationship with their biological parents. So, um, how do you guys kind of navigate adoption in your family and those discussions?
Well, I'm really thankful. I know it's not this way for a lot of families, but our girls did come to us as newborns. So I feel like we really got to be there in those very crucial first moments. So I'm really thankful for that. Of course, they know that they were adopted. That's always been talked about. It's not something we talk about daily.
Sure.
It's not something that I feel like I have to remind them of every
Right.
day.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, but both of them, one is Hispanic Caucasian and one is African American Caucasian. So obviously they look different
Mm-hmm.
than us. Um, but like, when I'm pregnant, it is another great opportunity we've had some discussions about, like, even with my 5 and my 7-year-old who are biologically related to me, we were like, yeah, this baby is in my tummy and you are in my tummy. Eden and Faith were not. It brings up good conversation. Even my son, who is 7, was like, what? Like, and I'm like, dude, we've talked about this before, but it's not even like a thing to him, and he's a boy too, so
Yeah.
he's not like emotional and thinking about these things often, but I was just amazed at like his I was like, dude, like, this, but he just, I don't know, forgot about it.
Yeah.
So I actually thought that was really cute and cool, that he just was kind of surprised again that they
Yeah.
had
I
not
just
come out of my
forget.
tummy. Yeah. Um, so yeah, it obviously is something that they all know about. We can talk about it. It's a special gift. It is special. We try to, use that word a lot. Listen, I I feel like every adoptive mother who we all could agree that it is a broken situation.
Mhm.
It adoption comes from brokenness,
Mhm.
and we can redeem a broken situation. Doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. Doesn't mean that there won't be, i- i- trauma just related to, anytime you remove a baby from their biological mother, like there's going to be trauma, even in the best circumstance,
Yeah.
So, just trying to remember that and be realistic and communication, I think, is the best thing
Yeah.
for adoption situations in
Yeah.
general. No secrets. Um, Obviously, there are things that we don't share with them at their age right now that they don't need to know yet.
Mhm.
Everything that we've shared, I feel like, is age appropriate for them. So that's kind of how we handle it in our family.
It's funny, Jude, the other day, he said, he's 9. He's almost 10. He said, he's our adopted kid. He said, yeah, I have short legs, but dad has short legs. That's why I have short legs. And I just kind of was like, yeah, buddy, that's why you have short legs. I just kind of started laughing.
Yeah.
And I said, and then like another day, he said, yeah, I have good hair, but that's because you have good hair, like talking to me. And I was like, yeah. He's like, we have the same color hair, mom. I was like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like he just forgets, like we don't have the same genetics. Like we just because he's just so a part of our family, and it's not like I'm reminding him, like, well, no, remember, you have to, like you don't have to. It's
Right.
just such a
Just let
natural, he's
them.
just part of our family, and
Yeah.
everybody forgets that, he didn't come out of my womb. So I think it's great. And I think people try to make adoption weird or like it's so hard or something. But honestly, it doesn't have to be. There's going to be hard questions, there's going to be things that come up, but I don't. uh, I think people that try to make adoption, they try to make adoption something that it's not. And I think it's all about, like you said, communication and openness and answering questions as they come. You know.
Yeah.
How are you guys teaching your kids? I get asked this all the time. How are you guys teaching your kids about a pro-life ethic? Like when your kids ask about abortion or things like that. What are you guys teaching them? How are you opening up those discussions?
Well, I mean, I feel like it's just been kind of ingrained, like, in
Mhm.
them from the very beginning. Like, it's just something that we talk about. We actually talk about politics and policy a lot in our family.
Sure.
My eldest daughter is like, sometimes I'm like, can we stop talking about this? And she's like very Republican. She's 15 years old, hasn't been able to vote yet, but she can't wait.
Yeah.
Um, And so it's definitely something that we're like, we as a family, are mommy and daddy will never vote for any candidate who is pro-choice. Like,
Yeah.
it is, I I know people go, "You're a one-issue voter." Yeah, I'm a one-issue voter.
Yeah.
That is my issue.
Proudly. Yeah.
Yeah, proudly one-issue voter. If you believe that killing babies is okay or good, I cannot listen to anything else you say. I have zero respect for your viewpoint on pretty much anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that we just have talked about so much. And it's so interesting how when the subject has come up with younger children, and I'm careful about how I talk about it, but you know, yeah, they think that it's okay to um, get rid of the baby inside of their tummy, and children are so wise. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
That is so sad. Who would do that?"
Right.
And, you're like, "Yeah, common sense. I know, 5-year-old could tell you."
Yeah.
Um, so I just think it's something that we've talked about just so early on with all of our children, that I hope that they carry with them. Um, we've been, very involved with the pro-life movement. Just it, we'll go to the local pregnancy center banquet, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously they know that we're going there to support that.
Right.
Or we give money to the pregnancy center. My mother has been involved with the pro-life movement my entire life. I mean, I grew up going to the roadside
Yeah.
like things where we held up the signs. And so my mom has been involved with local pregnancy centers my entire life. So she still is. And, my children see her do that too. So it's kind of a family affair, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're seeing it in action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, something that we just will bring up, if sometimes, like, one of my girls would be like, "I really love that celebrity or that movie star," and I'm like, "Yeah, she's really pro-choice." And they're like, "Oh."
Like, never mind. Never mind. Never mind.
I know.
Like,
Uh,
deleting that song off my list. Never mind. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Well, Kelli, I really appreciate you and your family and everything that you guys do just because of your love for the Lord and just you're amazing. You and Trey are just doing really good things for our culture, for the kingdom, and tell people how they can follow you and um, how they can help you guys out.
well, we're on Instagram at Kelly Ingram. Just my name my handle is my name, and um, yeah, I would just really try to promote family life, kids, marriage. Like, we just, I hope to be a light on the internet, among, a lot of content that tells you that kids are draining and you ruin your life when you have a bunch of them. I hope to be the opposite of that, to say, hey, like, we love family, we love marriage, we love kids, and we have a great and happy life.
Yeah.
And you can too. Um, so yeah, we'd love to have you follow along. Abby, you're awesome. I'm so thankful for you and everything you've done. Your story, your testimony is really inspiring, and I'm just really honored to be here to talk to you and be on your show.
Oh, thank you, Kelli. I appreciate you so much and appreciate your friendship. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Politely Rude podcast with Abby Johnson. Don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode drop. Also, a note that you can find all things related to me and the ministries that I operate at abbyj.com. You can also send me a message through my contact link on the website. Remember, friends, that God did not give you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. Take hold of it, embrace the gift of salvation that He has given you, and share that gift with others. Be well.